to Bending Perspective, different takes on the show Avatar the Last Airbender. My name is Emily, I'm your main host.
I'm Abigail, the fun host.
The cranky host.
Or that.
And I'm Daniel.
And I'm Adrian. Okay. Zuko Mike forever.
Okay, alright, and
it's a little much.
Our fifth co-host is Maddie. She's out and about, so you might hear her in the background. Okay, so this is episode 2. We covered episodes 4, 5, and 6. We're going to cover episodes 4, 5, and 6. Warriors of Kyoshi, The King of Omashu, and Imprisoned. So who wants to do... Mom, you said you were going to summarize Kyoshi?
Yeah, I'll summarize Kyoshi. So, Aang, Katara, and Sokka are flying on Appa, and Aang directs them to this island. And he tells them it's really important that they get there, and then when they get there, they find out he wants to ride some fish. He apparently really enjoys riding different types of animals. So he's playing in the water, and then they are discovered by the people who live on this island. After he finds kind of like a sea dragon, which was kind of dangerous, but yeah. Then the warriors that discover them are all female and dressed in like a traditional garb with green robes and everything. They carry fans, and they kind of overwhelm them, and this really upset Sokka because he was overwhelmed by girls. And it turns out that this island, Kyoshi Island, is named after an avatar who was a earthbender avatar, and one of Aang's past lives, Kyoshi. And all of the warriors, apparently, they dress like her and like in tribute to her. So they stay there for a while, and once they find out that Aang is the avatar, he becomes like an instant little celebrity, and especially all the little girls on the island all follow him around. They're like, oh, it's the avatar, and he's really popular. And this upsets Katara and Sokka for different reasons. They think they should be moving on because they feel like if they stay in one place for too long, Fire Nation's going to find out they're there. And Sokka is upset because he got beat up by girls. But Sokka actually, he gets beat up again, and he learns a little humility, and then he goes to them and asks them to train him, and they do, but he has to wear the traditional garb, which is, kind of neat to see Sokka in the little green dress and all. And Aang's running around kind of being stuck up and being a celebrity. Katara's kind of over it, and it turns out that they were right, and that word did get to the Fire Nation that they were there. The Fire Nation shows up in their ships, and they ride giant rhinoceroses and come after them. And they are able to get away, and then Aang, of course, kind of learns a little humility in the process, and so does Sokka, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so thoughts, comments, concerns about third episode?
Female power.
Okay, would you like to elaborate?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
There's just a lot of like female empowerment of kind of slapping Sokka in the face of not believing that girls can be fighters or warriors as well. And then he gets humbled by actually dressing like a female and having to train with the females and all that stuff. Being like,
Yeah. And to credit Sokka, he went and humbly asked to be taught.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, which says a lot. Ben?
It is interesting that when Sokka does start getting taught, he picks up very quickly, showing that he is a natural warrior.
Yeah. Mom pointed out when we were watching it, even though we're supposed to cease all Avatar conversations unless on the podcast, that we did not see the whole bender on the entire island. So nobody on that island bended from what we could see, which is interesting. Also, it's, I think, our first glance into how, like, in real life, and especially in Asian culture, like, there's many different subcultures in this universe. It's not a monogamous slate of culture at all. We've already seen a lot of varying culture.
Kyoshi is like a strange mix of the Earth Kingdom and Water tribes.
Yeah, because the people, they dress with water. They had blue-colored clothes on.
Which is usually indicative of a
water
tribe.
I thought it was green.
The Kyoshi warriors were green, but all the little girls that were following Aang around, they wear blue.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
And Kyoshi was born there as part of the Earth cycle for the Avatar.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that it's considered part of the Earth Kingdom, but no earth bending.
Yeah.
Very connected to the water.
Yes.
It's very obvious that we're not playing with gender roles and gender norms in this series, because in this episode we first have Sokka being, humbled, and also in the very beginning we can tell that Katara's having none of your traditional gender roles when he asks her to sew his pants and says women sew and men hunt and all this, and it's like, that's not going to fly. But also, the fact that Aang's past lives were female, and I know we saw the statues in the other episode, but this really drives it home that, the Avatar, is both male and female in its different lifetimes.
Yeah. One thing to state is that in the beginning, they talk about Kyoshi, and Aang says, "I know Kyoshi, one of my past lives."
Yeah.
The name Kyoshi, I don't think was ever brought up before.
Yeah.
So you just knew it.
Yeah, so just knew it from the lore.
Right.
You just immediately knew.
That's cool.
Yeah. Also, we see the cool scene where we're kind of gaining the idea that it's dangerous for Aang to be himself, because we see this view of word traveling through a fish.
Through the fish. That was very neat.
All the way to Zuko.
Good scene.
So, this is the first time we're like, okay, well maybe Aang needs to be on the down low.
Can we clarify, the fish did not talk?
No.
It was the fisherman.
Yes. As people pass the fish around. Also, Aang is childish in this episode.
Yes.
He's a 12-year-old.
And he's a 12-year-old.
He's naive.
Yeah.
He's very naive.
Yeah. And at the end of the episode, he saves the town.
Yes,
cool.
with the help of the water dragon.
Yeah.
The Unagi.
Yeah.
The water dragon.
So, also, Aang is good with animals, right?
Very. And he likes them.
Yeah. Alright, any other thoughts on... We didn't get much Zuko. Zuko Mike.
No, we didn't. We really didn't.
How y'all
Very
feel
little
about that?
Zuko.
Yeah, I'm a little sad because the whole 3 episodes that we watched were very, very, very light on the Zuko arrow.
I noticed that I was watching them.
Yeah.
So there was a little
Life
bit...
is good at the Aang Mike over here. Okay, so, if y'all are good, let's move on to the next episode.
Woohoo!
Okay, who wants to do this one?
Abigail.
Okay.
This is such a good episode.
You like
but
this one?
I love the Earthbenders. I don't know why.
Well, you have to summarize it.
Okay, so the gang, the whole trio. That would be a trio. They showed up to an earthbending town, city. Yeah. What's the name of it?
It's a city.
What's the name of it?
It's called the Kingdom of Omashu.
That one. So they show up and we get a cool scene of like, Aang, we just learned from this past episode that you got to change your identity. Yeah. You can't be you. And so he pretended to be an old man, and they go in the city, and there's a cute little scene where it's like, I know somebody from here. Mm-hmm. His name is not Bobo, but Boomy. Boomy, and they're childhood friends. So anyway, they're in this city, and they talk about how the Earthbenders live their life, so they really utilize their bending. Like, how they're male, and like, how they do everything with their... Yeah. Don't look at me like that. How they do everything with... I don't want to call them powers, but abilities.
Yeah.
And one of the cool ones was how they do their mail. And it's like this whole cool mail shoot thing that uses gravity and earthbending. And Aang was a child and wanted to use it as a slide. Yeah. Well, this ended up getting them caught, obviously, as being outsiders, because they destroyed cabbages, which is very heartbreaking. And then they get captured by the king. Is he considered a king?
Yeah.
And he doesn't say his name, but I picked it up in the first giggle. Like, he laughed, and I was like, okay, obviously that's him. And then he puts him through a series of tests to prove that Aang is the, Avatar, maybe?
He knew he was the Avatar, but then he started putting him through 3 tests, and each of the tests had a theme that you had to think outside the box.
Right. And so Aang does these, and it takes him a little bit on them, but they're high risk because Katara and Sokka are getting engulfed by rock candy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, at the end he realizes the last one is like, what's my name? And Aang had to realize that it was Boomy.
Yeah.
Not Bobo, his friend. And so we had a sweet little touching moment there, and it was cool seeing Aang think outside the box. Although he only used airbending.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have any.
He doesn't have any, which I know, that's expected. But I guess when he was jumping through the waterfall, I was like, please waterbend.
I thought he might try it at least. I'm with you there.
Yeah. And we're about to get into more training, but I mean, he really does have to learn how to waterbend. Mm-hmm. He just can't do it, Okay, so Mom, explain what role Boomy has to Aang in literary terms.
Well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because, for one thing, this is not, a traditional hero's journey type story. But, he kind of felt Threshold Guardian to me, because the Threshold Guardian kind of, sends you on your way and gives you important information, and sometimes tries to prevent you from, crossing away into the mythical woods. But the talk that he gave him about how he had to think, and he just kind of was giving him that advice and then sending him on his way. So it kind of felt that way to me. But I mean, I don't want to try to pigeonhole this story into a particular literary structure. I want to just be open to where it goes. So while it reminded me of that, I don't want to look at it only through that lens. I want to be more open to where it goes.
All right, Lucy Goosey. But it is the first formal Aang. You have to master the four elements.
It is.
You have to confront the Fire
Right.
Lord.
He's given the task.
Oh, and is this episode where we're given the Fire Lord's name, or is that next episode?
No, he does refer to him as Fire Lord Ozai.
Yeah.
I think that might be the first time.
I think it is. I noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's the first time we're hearing his name.
One thing on the world building I noticed is that the Earth Kingdom is very decentralized, because he's not the Earth King. He's the king of Omashu.
Yeah.
There is another kingdom within the Earth Kingdom.
God, she does make us look stupid.
Yeah, that is true.
He picks up on
It's
things.
exceptionally decentralized.
It's not one Earth Kingdom. Mm-hmm. It's more this multiple mini city-state type arrangements.
Well, and we see that in the next episode too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
we do.
Little towns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's all little communities all bound up. And it's the same thing, because we know Omashu is at war with the Fire Nation. You see the men training.
You do.
Being sent off to war. And I mean, in fact, Aang, in his first flashback, goes on the slide and everything's fine. But when he does it in the present time, you see a rack of weapons coming down after him.
It almost hits him.
Because they're preparing for war. The slide's more dangerous now.
Let's talk about that scene where they're entering the city, and the whole time, Aang is like, I don't need this, guys. They're so relaxed here. They're so chill. It's such a good place to be, or whatever. And then the guards stop them. And like, what's your state of business here? And it's obviously much more strict, and, and 12-year-old acting like a grandpa gets his way in, but they're much more strict. So obviously obviously they've changed, but they've changed more than Aang realized.
Yeah.
Everything is more strict because they're in war.
Yeah.
And the flashback with Boomy as the young child, and to see that's where you kind of get, I mean, of course with the air temple and the loss that he suffered there, but now that's where it sinks in, not only did he lose his home, but everybody else he ever knew is either dead or like Boomy.
Yeah.
Nobody's like Boomy.
But I guess it's where the age and the idea of the 100 years passing really sinks in.
Yeah. Also, like Abigail mentioned first, I love when they put in splashes of cool uses of bending.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's so, first of all, that's practical. It would make sense that people could earthbend would do that, know? And it's cool. Like,
very cool.
It's just cool.
It's really cool to see it utilized.
Okay, cool. So, next episode, I guess, unless anybody else got anything else?
No.
Okay. It was a very Aang-centric episode.
Very much so.
Loved it.
Yeah. Why did you like it so much?
I don't know, but I'm like, I was walking on the treadmill while watching it, and I was thriving.
Okay. Alright, so next episode, Dan, you want to do it?
Okay, so this one was imprisoned, and it begins with them foraging for food. And I guess we'll get to commentary later, but they go for foraging for food, and Sokka only brings back nuts and some rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Not very pleasing. But they hear these loud bangs and noises. They go to investigate, thinking they might find civilization and better food. And they see someone earthbending, someone practicing the earthbending. And they try to introduce themselves, but the man runs away. Later, they find the village, and they go into the first store they find, and lo and behold, the bender's there.
Well, they followed him in, but yeah.
And they confront him about it and said, hey, we saw you earthbending, and his mother is there and gets horrified at this. Like, the immediate thing she does is close all the shutters and things and says, you can't be doing that. It turns out in this village that bending is legal, gets you in prison if you were found out to be an earthbender. And then the Fire Nation comes knocking and essentially threatens the owner of the store for money.
Some Robin Hood taxes situation.
And Katara's, after the man leaves, Katara's like, why are you putting up with this?
Yeah.
Haru, the earthbender, can fight. He has a gift. He should do this. And his mother says no. Gets rid of his, that's how his father got taken away. So they get lodging for the night. They get lodging for the night, and at some point they hear a large explosion.
Yeah.
And they run down to one of the local coal mines and find that an old man has been buried alive.
Yeah.
And Katara convinces Haru to use his bending to save him.
Yep.
And they all go to bed tonight, and in the middle of the night, the Fire Nation comes and takes Haru because the old man told on them.
It's a snitch.
Snitches get stitches.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So Katara, figuring this out happens, has to come up with a plan to save Haru.
Mm-hmm.
And so she allows herself to be captured by pretending to be an earthbender.
Yeah. Using Aang's airbending.
Mm-hmm. And the plan is initially just to get her and Haru out.
Yeah.
But Katara gets there and notices how beaten down the earthbenders are, and she has to stay and help them.
Yeah.
Eventually, the rest of the gang agrees and lets her, and they come up with a plan to use the coal reserves underneath the platform, the prison, to fight back. And she does this initially, pulling up all the coal out of the ground and giving this heroic speech, and they do nothing.
Yeah.
And eventually, it seems like all is lost when suddenly Haru strikes back, and this encourages his father, who in turn encourages the rest of the prisoners to finally fight back, and they manage to overthrow the prison and escape.
Yeah, in the Fire Nation ships.
In the Fire Nation ships.
And it ends with, we're gonna go take back our villages, and yeah. Awesome. Oh, important point. Katara's necklace that her mother gave her, that's our first bit of information. That her mother has died. The only thing she has left is the necklace. It is gone, and I'm gonna let Mike Zuko finish it.
Okay. Well, yeah, so Zuko and Iroh arrive, and Zuko picks it up, and now he has Katara's necklace.
Okay, so
and that's really the only Zuko we get.
I know.
So it's slim pickings for Mike Zuko.
Cry me a river. It's alright.
Alright, so commentary. I know we wanted to talk about the food. Yeah.
Yes. It's very interesting to see in the show them actually doing things for survival, having to forage for food.
Yeah, we don't see that a lot in
most
shows
shows.
like this.
They just get over that.
Yeah,
we just kind of assume that it happens in backstream. But this is it's the thing that sets off the entire plot. Is them not wanting to eat nuts.
Yeah.
And that causes them to overthrow a prison.
It's sad because, I mean,
it's great.
I know we guessed last episode, but you gotta think the oldest person there, excluding the 100 years, is Sokka, who's 16.
I think I saw on Pinterest say he is 15.
Okay, worse.
Yeah.
He's 15 years old trying to find food for 3 of them to survive.
Yeah.
That's
Plus
sad. Plus Momo.
Plus Momo. And Appa.
Plus Appa. And that's sad. Like,
so,
that made me very
crazy.
sad.
So, also it's our first chance into finding out how the Fire Nation is kind of being successful in the war.
Oh yeah, sure. When you imprison everybody that has the ability to challenge you, it's real easy to take places over.
Yeah.
But we see the first time when they are occupying an Earth Kingdom village.
Yeah.
And how it's being ruled over.
Yeah.
And we notice a bit of corruption from the Fire Nation occupier. Because
he shakes them down more than once, right? He shakes them down more than once.
It's sort of implied that those aren't actual taxes. That's just him extorting them.
Yeah,
he's extorting them. We also get to see, and I found it very interesting that a kid's show went here, is this whole thing of, people being willing to sell out their countrymen out of fear or out of or because of possible rewards. We don't know.
Yeah.
But this guy owed Haru and Katara his life.
Yeah, you would think.
And he sold them out in less than a day.
Yeah. And then also in the prison, it was, it was kind of bad to see that, these were these once very powerful people, and we talked last episode about, I wish I was a waterbender because there's so much water, but really they put those earthbenders on some metal and it's over. That's what they thought.
Yeah, they had absolutely no hope, and that scene where Katara gives the first very long inspirational speech is a very good speech.
It was a great speech.
It was,
just went nowhere.
And just didn't do anything.
Actually,
and then she does it a second time. Yeah. When she has Colt, the ability for them to fight back. When she brings it up out of the ground, she does a second speech.
Yeah.
And at first, there's absolutely no response.
Yeah.
The only one who is able to stand up for himself is Haru, and he was only recently captured.
Right.
The only reason his dad fought back was because Haru was about to be hurt.
Yeah. And I think that they're trying to get it into our heads. This is not a simple problem, right? This is not an inspiration. This fear and, like, this torture runs deep with these
Well, it's been going on for centuries.
Well, a century.
A century. Whoops. But like, still, 10 years is a long time.
100?
Oh my god. 100 years. I don't even know why. Anyway, it's past my bedtime. That's a long time, you know?
It is.
Like, that's all they know.
That's all they know.
They never knew, like, I guess fighting back wasn't even in their brain.
Yeah.
They didn't even think about it.
Well,
It wasn't
I
a
mean, they've just
possibility.
been... It's just shows how good the Fire Nation is at, like, isolating you and making you feel powerless, and it's rough. Also, we also get to see a glimpse of Sokka's mind in this episode. This is the first time we see how smart Sokka is.
Yeah, this is how we see what he contributes to the group
Yes.
right now. And Sokka is the planner.
Yeah.
He is the one. He's always been the straight guy, even though he's considered the one that jokes the most.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because we start with him getting food, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him, think about all this elaborate plan to get his inspirational kind of big picture sister what she needs, We also see a glimpse into that part of Katara, like the ideal,
She's
very
idealist. Yeah.
Very much an idealist.
And Aang just kind of goes with the flow and is happy to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like and I know world building's kind of Daniel's thing, but it's amazing to me to see, because so many types of stories like this, you see, let's take Lord of the Rings, which, I have profound love for, but, the bad guys are just monstrous hordes of ravaging orcs, and we just see them march across the land, and we see maybe the Rohan village, and everybody's scared, but then that's it. Like, they leave the village, they're gone.
Yeah.
The idea that we see here that, that would never work. You can't just sweep through a territory. You have to occupy that territory.
Yeah.
You have to have people there. And that's what they were doing. So you see now, I see why the Fire Nation has been able to maintain control, because they didn't just conquer, they continually conquer. It's an ongoing process.
Mm.
They're constantly monitoring for benders that can threaten them. They're constantly shaking down the populace and putting them in fear and taking money. You take away their resources, you take away their
we not
warriors.
only see how, we also see why. Because one of the first things they say about why the Fire Nation is here is because, our coal fuels their ships.
Yep.
That's why they took over this village, is to get to the coal reserves.
Yep.
And you also see, this is, well, again, a kid's not going to see this, but like us watching it, you see how taking away the benders instantly changes the entire culture of that town.
Absolutely.
Like, that's no longer that town, right? Like, the Fire Nation, that's the Fire Nation's town. So that's interesting.
I also paid a lot more attention to who were the benders, depending on what they were wearing, thanks to Daniel last episode. And I noticed in the second episode that we watched this tiny series, the Earthbenders had a certain emblem on a sash.
Yeah, the square.
The square. And then this one, it was but it wasn't shocking of how little firebenders there were. I guess in my brain, because they're such a big nation and they're so powerful, I think all of them are firebenders, maybe?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, how can people that are not all firebenders be that powerful? But, I mean, it's just like what you said. They're just ongoing. They never stop.
Well, yeah, you see that in the town, is that there's only one firebender, and that was the commander.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them weren't firebenders, they just had spears and swords.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even one, he controls that town.
Yeah,
I mean, he owns that town.
There's nothing the regular populace can do.
Yeah, so I guess whether my brain now or even my little kid brain just wanted it to be that all of them were firebenders, and that's why they were so scary.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just that they had power.
Yeah.
And you notice that in the, during On the Prison, which, in case it wasn't mentioned before, is this giant sort of almost oil platform in the middle of the sea, just completely made out of metal.
Just metal and water. No rock, no stone of any kind.
And you see that the majority of the guards themselves aren't firebenders, but we get this wonderful scene where the commander is a firebender, and we see this fight starting to roil up, and they're starting to use the coal against them. And the commander shouts, "Show no mercy!" And these firebenders roll up with their skull helmets, and they start doing this, synchronized flame attack.
Yeah. That's also an interesting point. All of these commanders and chiefs and whatever are all benders.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're born a bender, you're already, like, a leg ahead.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
you win over anybody that's not a bender. They'll never touch you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we certainly
So
see
that's
that
interesting.
in the Fire Nation without orders. Like, everyone who is a commander is a firebender.
Right.
We haven't seen a non-firebender
It's
commander.
part of the job description.
It's also really, it was the first time I think we saw Aang on the ship against the firebenders, but like you pointed out last time, his whole thing was escape and evade.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I guess, the first time we saw two different elements battling, really battling, and to be able to see the different techniques that they use, like the earthbenders raising up a wall of earth to block the fire, and then, it was interesting to see how the use of the different elements played off of each other, and to see what kind of, I guess how they work again I can't speak today. The way that they, compliment's the wrong word, but the way that they contrasted each other, I guess is the right way to say it. So you have the defensive nature of the earthbending, it seemed to me. A lot of what they did was defense. But they had offense as well, but they chose their moments for that. It was a little bit more strategic, whereas the firebenders just seemed to hurl flame. I guess...
Yeah, but that's effective.
It's effective, but I thought that to see the different ways that the earthbenders fight, I thought was interesting. And it's very different. They have different tactics, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
That also brings up the fact, and thank you for reminding me, so we talked about last podcast episode that Aang didn't, fire a shot or do anything. All he did was evade and defend himself. Mm-hmm. But we got a moment in this episode where he did... Yes, it was this episode where he, used his airbending to push him back, and he, hit a wall, and it actually zoomed in on his face afterwards, and he, sighed. And you could see, his facial expressions dropped, and then he kept going. So it was a moment of, man, I had to do that.
Yeah. But
it wasn't just defense. And so, I don't know if y'all noticed that, but it, stuck out like a sore thumb to me. That little moment.
Yeah, the different bending styles, I think we get a lot more of that later on. Each time, later on when Aang gets sat down with the teacher, they teach him about what the strategy for this element is.
Yeah.
But from what we've already seen, we've seen all 4 elements at this point.
Yep.
And you can see that water, I don't know if it's mentioned, I think it might be mentioned in a later episode, but water appears to be a lot more about exploiting your enemy's weakness, finding that right time to strike. Air is very much evade and avoid. Boomy straight up says it. Mm-hmm. Typical airbender tactics, evade and avoid.
Yeah, he did say that.
Exact words. Firebending is all very passionate, very offensive focused.
They kick a lot.
Mm-hmm. And they stomp. No,
earthbenders stomp.
Earthbenders stomp.
Yeah, but firebenders are the only ones that use their feet as a weapon.
It's it reminds me of Karate Kid as they do their flips and things as fire comes from them.
And this is a good time to mention that each element is based off of very real martial arts styles. I don't know all of them, but they're all very separate. They did a lot of research. They actually had people come in and do it for the animators. So, it's nicely done. And that work shows.
That's what I said last podcast. They care. These showmakers care, and they're putting effort in.
Yeah. So any other comments before we move into favorites? About any of the 3?
These 3 in general, I liked better than the last 3.
Really?
As a whole, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Any questions this go around?
Yeah. What do you got, Mom?
I'm doing okay. I think. I feel like the 3rd episode that we watched of this set, episode 6, really did clarify some things for me, because it clarified the whole occupation strategy and why the Fire Nation has been able to maintain control. So that was very, very good to see.
Well, that is a bold-faced lie, because there was one question you had, but you asked it while we were watching, is that why aren't they just metal bending?
That's correct. Yeah, I did say that while I watched it, because, we live in Alabama, and there's iron mines everywhere. Iron comes from the earth, right? So why can't they just use the metal? It's from the earth.
Yeah, so they don't, though.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't.
By earthbending, they mean rock bending.
Yeah,
I agree. They should have made that, but I guess that makes it a little bit more clear. Can they bend sand?
Later. But
I'm excited.
Yeah.
But
it's important to know that metal benders straight up do not exist.
They do not exist.
Don't exist.
That makes sense why the Fire Nation felt very safe on a metal rig in the middle of the ocean. Right?
That's also why all their, the other options really would, but all their ships are made of metal, and all their armor is made of metal. But you see in the Kyoshi, that's not true. That type of armor that they're wearing is very similar to the old Japanese armor of lacquered wooden slats. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to me that that's how their style is, but no matter what, the firebenders are always wearing metal armor. Mm-hmm. They don't use any other kinds.
So did this society not, maybe we just haven't seen it yet, but I know a little bit with the fans, some of the warriors of Kyoshi threw their fans, but did this society did they not use projectiles? Are there no bow and arrows?
No, there
are.
Mm-hmm.
There are.
Okay.
They do use bows and arrows.
Mom, be patient.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, actually. Okay, so let's get to favorites. Abby?
Episode, 5?
Omashu?
Yeah, predictable for me because I've kind of already said it. But by far, favorite, and it beats last week's.
Well, that was my next question.
Oh, well, beat you to it.
Okay, so my favorite of the 3 was probably... I'm gonna go Kyoshi. And then Dan, episode 3?
I'm going to go with Imprisoned.
Okay, Mom?
It's hard. Of this set, yes, Imprisoned, yes.
Okay, so Abigail already answered. Your new favorite is...
Episode 5.
Okay, give me why.
I don't know. I guess Earthbending, I really like.
I feel like you liked the plot line of A Lost Friend, too.
Yeah, I loved that. And I loved the riddles. I like riddles. I loved the riddles that you had to think outside of the box to complete.
The box.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite altogether is probably still 3. Just because, I don't know. I love the Southern Air Temple. I loved I don't know. I loved it. Dan?
I'd have to say 3, too.
Okay.
Still. Definitely, just still the best line of the show is still Iroh's comments. And, yeah, it's a good punch.
Okay.
I thought I was going to have to fight to defend this, but I see that I'm not, so I feel comfortable going ahead and saying 3 is still my favorite.
Okay.
Because of the Iroh-Zuko interaction. I do like Imprisoned a lot. Mm-hmm. And I had to consider it. Like, I waited in my mind and kept went back and forth a little bit, but I just still think that episode 3 is where it's at.
So I'm the oddball.
Yes.
Typical, but okay.
Okay. All right, so next up, we've got Winter Solstice Part 1 and 2. Ooh, a goodie. Mm-hmm. Ooh, a goodie.
Those are
and
good
the Waterbending Scroll, another goodie. Mm-hmm. So that's episodes 7 through 9. So before you listen to the next episode, it would be helpful to watch those episodes or you will be majorly spoiled. And these are episodes I'm going to have to go and say you don't want to be spoiled in. Because some plot stuff's about to happen. Mm-hmm. Some big picture stuff.
Oh, good.
Okay, so,
we still don't have a sign-off.
Are you ready?
Still don't have one.
So
good night.
Okay, yeah, Abigail says always good night. I thought maybe we would take turns and you have to come up with ones until we all think
I'll go first. Good night.
Okay, well, here's my new one. Keep your arrow on straight. That's my guess. So next episode, Dan, you have to come up with one.
Negative 12 on that one.
Okay, well, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna stick with.
And then when we get the right tagline, the absolute perfect one, we'll put it all in post for all previous episodes.
No, we will not. That's wrong.
We'll do a repost.
Incorrect. Incorrect and false. Okay, so we're gonna go watch them now?
Sure.
No.
Abigail's
Good night, Abigail.
Bye, Abby. Love you. All right.